I think Boston College's wide receiver room is the deepest that they've had in a long time, and is really going to help them win some big games this year.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, the industry leader in Boston College news, and your place to go for everything BC. I've been the host of this show for 5 years, and I'm excited to do today's show, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On College at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. On today's show, we're going to talk about that NIL deal with Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee, who's heading over reportedly to UCLA. Is that going to change everything? Is this the first domino to fall that really is going to change the Wild West of the NIL? We'll talk about that. Then wide receiver talk. We're doing positional talk. Freshmen. There's 2 new freshmen on the roster already and 1 more coming. They're a lot of fun to watch, and they're building some really good depth there. I'll explain what I mean there. But I want to kick this off by talking about the OGs, the guys on the roster who all 3 of them have been there for a while now, that are going to make this wide receiver room really effective going this year. Now, with camp ending 2 weeks ago and no spring game, and I'm sorry, guys, I know some of you really, really were hoping for that spring game. You didn't get to see the wide receivers and how effective they're going to be in a good passing offense. You know, I give credit to Steve Adazio for recruiting Zay Flowers and Jeff Hafley for recruiting Reed Harris, Jaden Skeet, and Lewis Bond. Those 2 coaches, you may hate them, you may not like them. You give them credit for helping to build out a wide receiver room that for years really didn't have a ton of deep talent. Now they do. You go into this season with a top 3 that really excite me, given how Bill O'Brien builds his offense. Lewis Bond led the team with 69 nice catches last year. And then you bring in Reed Harris again, who beats out Jerron Bradley, who I thought was going to be the guy. And take that as a loss, AJ. Reed Harris, who made highlight catch after highlight catch, and Jaden Skeet, who showed pieces but really didn't get himself going because he got hurt. I love these 3. I think when you're looking at what BC has for next year, the combo of these running backs and these wide receivers are going to allow Bill O'Brien to build the balanced offense that he really wants. From last year, I believe Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider, my co-writer, and he talked about, so when I look at this room, I look at the potential with either Grayson James or Dylan Larnagin, and I am impressed with the potential that this passing offense could be one of the most effective pass offenses BC's had in years. Going back to, what are we going to talk about? Like Phil Dracovic, maybe his first year. Like, you're going to have you have your volume catcher who can still make good plays in Lewis Bond. He's not going to be, he has those moments where you're waiting for him to like make a humongous play, and he doesn't do tons of that, but he's reliable. He's good. He makes his catches. He doesn't drop a ton. He's tough as nails. I love that about him. You have Reed Harris. And the more we talk about Reed Harris, the better. Actually, I should say the less we talk about him, because after this year, he could be a prime target for some school to say, hey, why don't you join the transfer portal so we can get you over here? 6'5", with good hands. And those 2, Moss catches last year, Randy Moss catches. This is like, again, if you don't know the story of Reed Harris, his ascent to where he's at now is crazy. He comes in here from Montana, a state that, again, I don't know anyone from BC playing football that's ever come from there. But he comes in as a quarterback. BC gets this, Hafley, to his credit, I recognize this kid had a lot of talent. moves him over to he moves him in as an athlete tight end. Bill O'Brien in spring had him as a tight end. Bill O'Brien in the summer had him as, he still was tight end for different parts of the season. But then he starts lining him up. And when you get Grayson James out there throwing on the ball, all of a sudden you have a big tight end, a big wide receiver that I don't remember BC ever having. I remember BC having lots of big wide receivers, but not with the hands he has. Reed Harris can high point balls. He can catch. He's tough. Like, this could be a massive breakout year for him. Like, I expect similar stats for Lewis Bond. He's consistent. That's what he does. Like, you know what you're going to get with him. You look at what Reed Harris did last year. Again, half of the year, I think he was a tight end. Now that he's a full-time wide receiver, how many red zone touchdowns is he going to get? I expect big. I'm expecting him to make some big moves. And could he be the darling on this wide receiver group? I could totally see it. Like, he is special. He's a special kid. And this could be a big year for him. Jaden Skeet, he's the third one. Jaden Skeet was just on the bridge of like the brink of really having a solid season when he got hurt. We don't know what it was, but whatever it was knocked him out, I think, from the Louisville game on. And that was it for him. A Catholic Memorial recruit from Massachusetts. He's got better size than some other wide receivers. Like, he's got good he's not the smallest guy, but decent hands, and he's a great third wide receiver. Like, last year we saw Jonathan Montague go into that spot. Didn't see a whole lot of him this spring. But Montague is just learning that position. He's kind of like Reed Harris. Maybe this is a big year for Jonathan Montague too. Like, Harris took a year to catch on to that wide receiver role. Montague came in as a quarterback, and now he gets a chance to play wide receiver full time. I wonder how many snaps will be taken away from him, but that's a big thing too. Now, in our second segment, freshmen and transfers, there's a lot of fun things to add to this group, and they're just going to keep getting deeper. I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food, going out to dinner. Now I budget smarter and save more. That makes my wife happy. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. And I want to shout you all out that are listening today, whether it's your first time or you're an everydayer. You guys have taken a chance to listen to some Boston College news, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Whether you've been here, this is your first show, or this is your 300th show of listening to me talk. God bless you if you've listened to me for more than that. I've almost up to 1,000 podcasts, which is crazy. And if you're looking for a second listen, another show to check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. It's a great podcast that goes over everything college football related. If you want national news, it's a great place to start. Now, 3 new guys to this wide receiver room really have me excited. And this is not a knock on guys that are still on the roster that I didn't really talk about. They're, whether it's Cedric Lott or Ish Zamore or even Luke McLaughlin. They all have their top spots that they can reach in on that depth chart. These new names could really shake up what the depth chart could look like when it comes to the summer. I want to start with the freshmen. We'll do that, and then we'll do the fun one last. You had 2 freshmen coming in, Nedrick Bolden and Dawson Poe. Nedrick Bolden during camp really impressed me with how he played. This was a kid, he's the nephew of cousin, of Anquan Bolden, who you all know is an NFL great. Bolden, playing with guys like Shaker Razig, he started to really come into his own. Like when you get freshmen out there, some of them just take a while to learn the collegiate system. They don't look as fresh. They're, making some plays that you're like, oh, they wrong cuts or not understanding what their role out there is. It's totally natural that happens. I didn't see a ton of that with Nedrick Bolden. He's a freshman. He's going to make mistakes. That's totally natural. But I didn't see that with him. Like, you know, do I expect him to go out there and start? No. But is he progressing to the point where if there was a spot that he needed to play, could he play? Sure. I could totally see him kind of, finding a role this year. He's high on my list of true freshmen already coming in that I could see them not redshirting. I could see him playing pretty quick. And it's because he's quick, he's fast, he's got good hands. He's a good wide receiver that you brought in as a true freshman. You want to get when you have talent, you want to get them out there as fast as possible. And so you have your three, and I assume Jonathan Montague is up there too, as in terms of players you expect to really get a lot of snaps. I put Nedrick Bolden right below them, like as a guy that, I think is really talented. He's a true freshman, so he might still need to grow. But there's definitely a future for him in this offense. Dawson Poe too, to an extent. I don't think he's as far along as Nedrick Bolden. I saw a lot more big plays out of Bolden during camp. There's a couple of plays where he had some really good hands and things like that. Poe, he didn't practice a few times when I was there, but I saw some plays too where he's a bigger wide receiver than Bolden. Like he's got more to him. So, he could be a more physical wide receiver. He's going to be harder to jam at the line of scrimmage. I like what I saw there. I'm not sure if he's going to be a guy that we see this year, but maybe we will. Maybe he'll be, on that too deep because there's a third wide receiver coming in, Samaj Fleming, that we haven't seen yet. I don't know what to expect from him. He is your highest rated wide receiver that you landed with big offers. I think Georgia offered him. Like he had some really big interest for a kid from the South. And I could see him still impressing too, because remember, Jonathan Montague came in during this summer, and he was starting by the end of the year. I mean, he came in the fall and was starting at quarterback, and then they switched him halfway through. So he only had half a camp and he figured things out. Would not surprise me if Samaj Fleming came in and still impressed as well. So you have these three. They're all going to have, I think they're all higher along. Like Cedric Lott. This is not a I'm bashing Cedric Lott segment here. I promise you, if you're a family member, I'm not bashing him. He came into BC still kind of raw, learning how to play. He had all the physical tools. He's a huge kid. He was a basketball player, not so much football. I believe it was his senior year that he just started picking up the game. We knew when he came in, it would probably take him a little while. And he's developing nicely, but it's taken him a year, and it's going to probably take him a good chunk of this year to get himself up to that level. I don't see that with Dawson Poe and Nedrick Bolden. They're very different. They're much further along in terms of what I saw, in terms of being able to play. But, coaches also have different things that they look at that I don't see. And we'll have to wait to see how, what that first two deep for Fordham looks like. But one player that has to get out there, and I don't know if he'll end up, beating out another starter or finding a role in certain packages. You just got to play him, is VJ Wilkins. Last year, and I'm going to use this story again. VJ Wilkins is your new speedy wide receiver. And last year, I thought they had one when they brought in Jaden McGowan from Vanderbilt. Jaden McGowan had a decent pedigree. He was, a regular pass catcher for the Commodores. I expected him to play a role. That being said, when I watched him at camp last year, if you would ask me, I could tell you, Jerron Bradley didn't really do a whole lot for BC, but during practice, I saw him make a ton of big plays. And most of it, some of it might have been more 7-on-7 type of stuff, but I did see him do things. I don't remember seeing Jaden McGowan do anything. He was out there, but like if you were to ask me during a scrimmage or during summer camp, he didn't see him. He didn't do much. That is absolutely the opposite case for VJ Wilkins. Every single scrimmage I go to, I saw him make multiple big plays. And I'm talking explosive, big plays. He gets open. He is hard to tackle. He is elusive. He's quick. He's the fastest wide receiver you have, I think, just watching him. He has to find the field. You have to get him out there. He came in with that nickname, Rocket. It was there for a reason. He's something. Like the fact that BC landed him. I was talking to Matt over at Talking ACC podcast, who follows FCS football. He's like, yeah, I watched him. He's something. So, yeah, maybe he played at a smaller division, but you're going to use him. You're going to find a way to get him the ball. And I think that VJ Wilkins will be something special for you. If you were to rank all these, the freshmen and him, he's highest in terms of like get him on the field as fast as you can. He's going to play in special teams too, I bet. Saw him returning punts, returning kicks. They have Isaiah Ferris back there who had some moments last year too. And it'll be interesting to see who they go with on the every down kind of punt returns. But I could see VJ Wilkins playing a big role there too. So that's our wide receivers. Those are the guys I watched a lot this camp. There's other players like Duke Brennan, who I didn't know who that was. He's a preferred walk-on. There's a few others like Luke McLaughlin who, they play their role. And, if there's injuries, I'm sure they might be able to find a place. There's Bryce Dobson as well. But are they going to be major contributors? I don't believe so. I think the guys that we talked about will be probably a little bit higher, but we'll have to wait and see. That's what summer camp is for. There's still a lot more practices to talk about this. Now, in our final segment, is the world of NIL finally going to change? Was there one move that shifted the way things are seen? I'll get into all that in just a moment. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you all listening. And if you're looking for a second listen, if you need another show, first of all, we're out of season, so check out all my episodes from previous episodes. I'm going through and doing some positional reviews. Go back and listen. I have really good takes on some of these other positions. Now let's get into the biggest news of this past week. Now, if you're listening to this, many of you are everydayers. I've already told you I'm away this week. I am going on a cruise. I'm really excited to take a week off, but I'm not giving up on making sure you get your 5 episodes a week. So I've recorded these in advance, and I'm recording this the week before. And Nico Iamaleava of Tennessee is the biggest story right now. The drama that he had with Tennessee before heading to, as I recorded this, it was to UCLA. I don't know if things change. Is absolutely fascinating because he signed reportedly a $2 million deal with Tennessee, but there's reports out there that he was holding out for more money, that he was upset that he didn't get more money when they made the playoffs. Whatever the case may be, this story really shows a light on one thing. First of all, I have said all along, kids deserve the right to be paid because they're doing the yeoman's work to make all this, this entire product the way it is. And yeah, some of the decisions they make are pretty lousy. But when I look at all this, the Nico story highlights one big thing to me. That the biggest issue here aren't the schools. It's not the kids. It's everyone around the kid. It's the agents and families and things like that. Like Nico, you read in the stories and they're saying like, he was a bad kid, not bad kid when he came to Tennessee. They knew that. But now all these people are making him try to make decisions, I assume, to try to find a better deal. Like you're making $2 million a year to play, 15 games if you make the playoffs. I think he makes a point that they should be paid for that. But the bigger issue here is that you made a deal and then you hold your team up. And now you've basically become kind of a messiah a pariah, excuse me, as other teams are not interested in you that could have. Like, who wants to bring this headache to their team? And so I wonder, is this the first domino to fall in terms of like the way NIL deals are handled? Because the hope is with this new house settlement that there's going to be a clearinghouse that makes sure these NIL deals are on the level. Would this house settlement deal and the clearinghouse prevented this Nico thing from happening? I'm not sure. But I think they're going to prevent a lot of those stories where you hear about kids not getting their money, they're signing up and it's not what they're doing and all this kind of crazy stuff. I think that's a big thing. The other piece is I wonder with NIL deals if we're going to start to see multi-year deals coming up. Like the pros all have it. Why doesn't college have it yet? Like if you have a 4-star quarterback and you have fair market value that you're going to pay them, you want to lock them in, why can't you do that like they do in the NFL or Major League Baseball? And I don't know if that has to do with unionization or whatever, but it feels like that needs to be the next thing because it could help solidify and stabilize what has been a crazy market. Like you have guys like Nico who get their team to a playoff, get them ready for spring, and then just leave because they're not getting the money that they want. How often will this happen until something changes? I think this could be the tip of the iceberg in terms of the way college football is being worked. We've been waiting for something that really kind of pushes that button, and the Nico story kind of does that. For BC, it's interesting because for up to this point, we haven't seen anybody on this roster do anything resembling what this is going on. And honestly, I don't think you look at the guys that have left since NIL has really kicked in. I don't think I've seen any guys leave the school because of money. You may have, but like, look at all the guys that have left. Who has entered the portal that really has like impacted you to the point where like, man, if BC had more money, we could have kept him. You haven't had that happen. You've had guys like Zay, Donovan, Ozzy, the quarterbacks, whatever, that have all had options and they've stayed here. Will stuff like this eventually hit BC? I'd be naive to say it doesn't, but I think BC does a really good job of finding guys that don't do what Nico does. But as I watch all these schools, schools like Texas Tech right now, that are just gobbling up all these transfer portal players, you're just asking for this situation to happen again. You're just hiring mercenaries. And I'm not naive to say that BC isn't either, but BC is building a culture. They're doing something and it's impacting kids so they don't transfer. These other schools, there's a million Nico Iamaleavas that are going to probably emerge soon. Will they be able to fix that, or is this system going to get even more broken? It's going to be something worth watching. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to get into the offensive line of tight ends. We'll talk about what those positions will look like, my concerns, my thoughts. We'll get into all that on tomorrow's show. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out at Eagle Insider, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.